Welcome to Creation Pack 3, Conscious Harmony. Before you watch this video, please open the tutorial sheets and go through the pages. You will find compositional rules, my art supplies, and timestamps, which are really helpful and guide you through this video. In the tutorial sheets, you will find a page named Art Supplies. There I have listed all my art supplies that I will use for this painting. But please, just begin with the things you already have. You can also find a file named Line Art. It is the line art of this painting. If you like, you can print the line art and transfer it onto watercolor paper and paint along. A tip for transferring the line art onto watercolor paper: you can use any type of transparent paper, tracing paper or baking paper, for tracing it onto your watercolor paper. So since my painting is going to be really bluish, I use this blue waterproofed color pencil. And for my line art, I use really simple, not that detailed and bold shapes. When I paint on paper, I always like to create a canvas, a frame for my painting. To create this frame, I like to use masking tape, washi tape. This is just an aesthetic decision because I really like this clean border that you have in the end when you peel off your masking tape. I don't want to fill the entire sheet with paint, with color, but I also don't want to cut it. The paper needs to stay attached to the watercolor block, and the paper is glued to the border, so it's constantly stretched and won't warp when it gets wet while painting. I cleaned my palette and now I mix my first color tone. I'm mixing two colors, ultramarine blue and violet. Now I add a bit of helio green. You might ask yourself, okay Valerie, why do you add helio green? On the left side is purple and the bottom is bluish and the middle is green. I do this because this is more interesting for us human beings. It keeps us engaged and our eyes are wandering all over the painting. If it's just blue, it's boring. I try to have variation in my hues. Color theory needs a dedicated class where I have color wheels and mix colors and tell you about the combination and science behind placing the right colors next to each other. It's impossible to explain it in a painting demo like this, but I want you to follow along. So color hue is just the colors, no added black or white. If I would turn this layer I'm painting right now into black and white, it would be the same gray tone, one mass. The first layer should be one mass, one gray tone. But for me that is so boring, so I add variation in the colors. Purple, green and blue with the same value. Variation in the color hue. And this is just the background, but I still dedicate so much thought to a simple object like this. This is my first plain value, and now, because it gets kind of boring also for me, I want to go into the really dark areas, the hair of this woman. I mix black with violet and ultramarine blue, a little bit of brown and alizarin red, more blue. I mix my black more with brown, blue and red. I don't really use black. So first paint the color underneath the black hair, that is this dark brown. That's how dark areas are glowing. Now I take a bit of red. That should be enough for now. This woman is not going to be blonde. She will also have dark hair, but this is the underpainting. This phase is also called blocking in. You work yourself from big, bold shapes to the details. Okay, here I realized my paint is not dark enough, so I will just apply fresh gouache paint, ultramarine blue, on my palette and use that. Here I'm going over this background so many times because I want it to look really even. And I switched to a way softer, bigger and round brush, so you won't see the brush strokes that much. You saw in the beginning I wasn't using that much water, but now I'm adding way more water because I realized it's so much easier to spread my pigments more evenly this way. And this is something I really like about watercolor. I just add more darker tones to the area that is still wet. So her hair is going to be really dark and the background has to be darker than her hair. I want to create a gradient. At the bottom, this big purple bold shape should be dark, and as it rises to the top, it should get lighter. And that's why I dedicate so much focus to the lower part right now. So I just add pigments, a mixture of ultramarine blue and brown, and I just dab it onto that wet area. This process goes till minute 12:47 if you want to skip it, but continue to watch from 12:47 because there I will say something important about the composition. Let's talk about composition. For this painting, I was playing with the number 3. I have split this painting in 3 parts. First third, second third, last third. 2/3 of this painting is filled with figures, 3 figures, and 1/3 is empty. 1/3 is the darkest value, second third is the mid value, and the last third is the lightest value. If you are a creator, you must know that we humans just find these structures very appealing, and you can use this knowledge to create beautiful paintings. Good morning. We have to clean the palette to continue this painting. I am going in with some warm, like these 2 red colors and this brown tone and white for this area. And this is the total contrast. And if we paint with these blue tones, this area will get muddy. It will become grayish and greenish, but we want it to be beige and just beige. Some slight brown tones and maybe a bit of pink and violet. And we also need new water. A bit of brown. There was some blue on it, that's why it's not brown enough. Remove that. A bit of brown. And then white. So this lower part is, as I said, going to be really light. And I'm almost following the line art and just surrounding it with a darker value. Okay, today I will focus on the lower part of a painting where the figures are and set all the flat colors, and after that I will go into the faces. I added a bit of helio green. Next I'm going to paint their skin. Here they are, the faces. I mixed red and white to get a really light pink for her cheeks, and I'm just paint over her face like that. And then I take a bit of water from my brush and I spread it to get a gradient. I want her face to stick out really, like a lot. So I'm going darker with the area that surrounds her face. I will not work myself up yet. I just make a note like this, a visual note. And something I can relate to because they're next to each other. I have a lot of tissue on my painting. Yeah, I think I will switch back to the other tissues that I used. Those were nose tissues that use when you have to clean your nose. So, and these are just like these tissues for when you eat. That's not good. Yeah, that's a lot. That makes me a lot of problems right now. Annoying. You see, I destroyed it just to remove a tissue. I'm commanding myself to focus on this face now. And I'm switching to a smaller brush, this one here. I'm going to say this later on again, but I really like to paint the face in layers. So the first layer for the face was this really light yellowish, orangish tone. And then I add where her cheeks are, this blush, this red blush. I always do the same process over and over when I paint faces, because for faces, and it doesn't matter what skin tone you want to paint, it's always the same process. But of course with different colors and values. Here I am darkening the hair, and do you see I just have a few flat shapes and it already looks really good. When you focus first on the bigger shapes and slowly work yourself to the smaller parts of his painting, like the eyelids, the lips, you have structure and it looks good from the beginning. Paintings do not have to look bad from the beginning. That's something you hear really often. You might have heard this paint ugly in the beginning, but for me it's both. Like when I paint with structure, at first I fill out these shapes, and my line art is also really clean, and when I follow a plan, it looks pretty. When I get confused and make mistakes that I will do later on in this video, it will become a mess, and my mind will also be a mess, and I will be unhappy. But that's normal. You have to go through this. You have to fail, you have to mess up and find solutions and make it pretty again. So I'm mixing blue, ultramarine blue with alizarin crimson, that's a dark red tone, to separate the hair from the blue area. That's why I use red. This is a warm blue tone and a cold blue tone. Let me show you something. So here I mixed ultramarine blue with alizarin crimson. Here I mixed ultramarine blue with this red. And do you see? This is so much lighter. A bit of water, and then I paint it on here. I know I said I want to separate it through cold and warm. The hair should be warm and the background should be cold, bluish, but right now I'm making it reddish. That's because I will paint over it later, and sometimes or often you change your mind during the painting process, and that is normal. Here I'm creating a darker shape from her chin to neck. And this is what I mean when you paint so simple, you can focus on separating the elements, the face from the hair from the background. Where should my figures be? Always begin super simple with your shapes. Don't think about eyelashes or whatever. And this is her body, this is her arm. Now I paint her waist so we can see some three-dimensional shapes. It is flat, now we make it three-dimensional by drawing lines, painting lines. Maybe a bit higher, wait, like that. Yeah. Okay, from here I will not say anything about the painting process of part 1. You can go as fast or slow through these last minutes as you want to. In part 2, I will begin to paint the details of a face, eyes, eyebrows, lips. We will solve the tissue problem as well and try a vibrant blue tone from a different palette to give more glow to the dresses. But my favorite part of this painting demo is part 3. I have a lot to say in part 3.